My wife pressured me into swinging, so she could cheat. Now I'm divorcing her and want to date the woman she paired me off with. My name is Kara, 21F. I have been dating my boyfriend Leland, 27M, for 3 years. We met at a party my friend was throwing during my senior year. Since then, we have been largely inseparable. He gets a little jealous sometimes, but we do really love each other. I moved in with him 8 months ago. It was a little bit of an adjustment for the both of us, but I think we are getting the hang of it. I don't work right now since I'm in nursing school. He has a pretty good job, so I do my best to take care of the apartment. I wish he helped out a little bit, but I kind of get it since I don't contribute anything financially. Like I said, for the most part, our relationship is pretty good. He spoils me. I don't have a lot of my own disposable income, so I do appreciate that he likes to take me out, and by me things, our sex life is really good and really active. We try out a lot of new things in the bedroom. We always role-played scenarios, and I always thought these were just fantasies of his. We done cheating scenarios, swapping scenarios, and stuff like that. Usually I'm pretending to be someone else, which is fine. I'm not upset about that. The thing that hurt my feelings recently is that he said he missed dating. Sometimes I know it's valid to feel that way. I have had a few moments over the last couple years where I wish I could just do some of the crazy things my friends do, but I don't, because that's not what you do in a relationship. You got to prioritize your boyfriend or girlfriend, and sometimes it means missing out on things. I tried to see where he was coming from, and we didn't really talk about it. So I thought maybe it was just him being a little oblivious. That was until he started to talk about how he has these 2 co-workers that are in open relationships. I've met the one he has worked with for years. She, Abigail, is like mid-30s and married. When he brought her up the first time, it was just months into us dating, and we talked about it like we were gossiping. Abigail does not hide the fact, and Leland has heard other people ask her questions about it, and she just answers them like she was talking about anything else. Leland hasn't brought her up very much at all, and usually if he does, it goes like, you know what, Abigail had some guy that was definitely not her husband drop her off at the office today, and I totally saw her give him like the biggest kiss before she came in IS&T. That crazy. Could you even imagine? I mean, he says stuff like that like yes, gossiping. So I never really thought he was that into that. Then he met his new co-worker, Madison, 26F. She is also apparently in an open relationship. Leland talks about her a lot. The thing that has scared me is when he talks about her. He says it like he is impressed. He talks about her like he has a crush on her and like he envies her lifestyle. It makes me feel kind of insecure sometimes. Then today happened. It was just a usual Saturday. We were having some sandwiches and chips for lunch when he just asked me what my opinion of swinging was. I just went blank for a few moments. I finally said I don't. No, I've never really thought about it. Leland came back with, well, let us talk about it. I mean, you have to think about other guys sometimes, right? I said, sure, but not like real people like Ryan Gosling, not Ethan from Class. Do you fantasize about people you know? He replied, no, not really. I mean, I guess sometimes, but it doesn't mean anything. I guess I'm just saying we're young now is kind of the time to do something like this, have some fun before we settle down. I see how happy Abigail and Madison are, and think maybe we would enjoy it too. Madison, there is. I got a little mad. So this is about Madison. He came back. She just makes a lot of good points. She says her and her husband are in an open relationship, and that it has made them really close. They talk about everything now, and it makes the intimacy amazing. I was getting more annoyed, honestly. That seems like really personal information to know about someone you've only known for 4 months. What are you sharing with her? He got defensive. Nothing. I talked about how great our relationship is, and she told me about hers. That said, then she said we should give it a try at LL, make things even better. I don't know why you were getting so defensive. I just asked a question. You always say I should be open about my thoughts and feelings. I backed off a little. I do say that I want him to feel like he could be safe around me. I watch all these TikToks about toxic behaviors in relationships. I'm not going to be the kind of girlfriend my boyfriend can't talk to about anything. I told him, okay, that's fair. We could talk about it some more. I just need a break right now. Can we talk later tonight? He agreed. Then we hugged and each went to do our own thing. That was a few hours ago, and I don't really know what to do or say. I guess I will just listen. I don't know where this is coming from. I am half expecting that he will say that Madison and her husband want to swing with us. I, Seth, 27M, have been married to my wife, Madison, 26F, for 2 years. We have been together for 4 years. I wouldn't say anything about our relationship. Had been extraordinary in the grand scheme of things. We met through a mutual friend and just clicked. We dated for like 18 months, then moved in together and got engaged. We had a typical small wedding 6 months later. For the first 2 years of our marriage, everything seemed fine. We have both been focused on our careers and are doing pretty well. We still make time for each other and go on dates often. 4 or 5 months ago, she landed a managerial position in her field at a different Company 1 week later, she asked me for an open relationship. I was completely blindsided by that. We have never talked about anything like that before. When I asked where this was coming from, she talked about some married coworker named Abigail that is in an open relationship, Madison, and her have been talking about this since her third day working there. She starts trying to sell me on this with all these bullet points bring us closer. Together, new experiences take our sex life to the max meet. New people, etc., etc., etc. on. Initial approach, I was completely against this. I still am. Yet I find myself in this stupid situation. When I first rejected it, she just accepted that, and we moved on with our night. She didn't T-stop, though. She brought it up again and again. In addition to just casual mentionings, she also began sending me stories out of her non-monogamy and her open marriage. These were all cherry-picked stories, and when I started exploring the subs on my own and sending back horror stories, she stopped doing this and said, "We shouldn't be basing our marriage adventure on someone else." She also became super wife, picking up my favorite snacks, doing more housework, trying to initiate sex all the time. I enjoyed that. But at the same time, it's not as much fun when you know there is an ulterior motive. I've been asking her if there is someone she has in mind. She swears there is, not even getting angry the last time I asked. I don't really believe her. I know her new job has quite a few guys that work there. The company is also known for recruiting heavily out of the colleges, so it's likely a lot of guys right in our age bracket. Yet she keeps pushing the same narrative of bringing us closer together and having new experiences. I can kind of see the latter point. I am only her second boyfriend. She was in a 6-year relationship prior to our meeting and had only been out of it for 3 weeks. When we met, I'm slightly more experienced than her, being my third girlfriend and sixth sexual partner. 2 months ago, she managed to break me. I had stayed pretty steadfast in that I was apprehensive towards doing anything like this the whole time from the initial approach until that 2-month mark. She was really sweet and understanding, but also pushy on this day. She went ultimatum. I said, "I don't think I'll ever be ready to share you with others." She responded by saying maybe we should take some time apart. That was like a jab in the face. "Are you serious?" She looked sad and had a tear forming in one eye. "Yeah, I just feel confined. I understand you don't want this, but I think I need to experience things maybe at ISNT for us. But I want to try, and it seems you don't, so I guess we are at an impasse. I asked, you want a divorce? Am I just not enough for you anymore?" She softened. "Never about you not being enough. I just want to be open to having experiences, meeting people, and not being bound by arbitrary rules and social norms. I don't want a divorce. I want you. I just feel like I need to explore this, and you don't want to, so maybe we should just take some time apart, not divorce, and see how we feel after a month or two." This is where I caved and ended up in the position I am now. "I'll give it a try." She immediately perked up. "But can we take things slow? Can we come up with some basic rules?" Madison, clearly excited, but trying to downplay. Yes, we can just take our time. "Thank you. I really think this will be a good thing in the long term." She then initiated sex, which I totally went along with. A few hours ago, we had dinner with a couple we were supposed to swing with. I spent most of the dinner making small talk with Kara, a very attractive 21-year-old. She is very much my type physically, but this feels so weird. Madison and Kara's boyfriend Leland, who are co-workers by the way, were flirting, and talking like this is second nature. I can't help but wonder if this was Madison's plan all along. He is a good-looking guy, so am I, but this all seems too convenient. Kara and I, however, seem a lot more apprehensive. She seems sweet, but there is definitely an awkwardness between us. Madison told me this couple wanted to swing with us because we're all new to this. I have this feeling something is up, though, between my wife and this other guy. When I caved and told Madison we could try an open relationship and that I'd like to take it really slow, she took that to mean like waiting until the next day was slow enough. I figured we would really talk about rules, read some books on yin ethical non-monogamy, and take things one step at a time. I got up the morning after I agreed a little later than usual. Madison had gotten up quite a bit earlier than usual. She had made us both Tinder profiles, like really had put a lot of effort into both of them. I tried to tell her this was too fast, but she countered saying it's just being ready for when we are ready. It could take months for either of us to match with anyone. We can take things slow, but now this part is done, and we can start making matches while we figure this out. I accepted that response. However, within 24 hours, she had about 20 matches. That number just kept growing and growing. As the days went by, we would try to talk about how we wanted this to go, but she was also distracted by all the activity on her phone. Within 4 days, she was already messaging directly with a few guys. 3 weeks later, she had her first date set up. We had talked about the rules and boundaries we were going to have. She had agreed to all of them, although some of them only begrudgingly. First was the obvious one: use protection at all times. We also had a few more boundaries, though, like not being physical with anyone on the first date, being home by an agreed upon time, or updating the other on changes, giving each other details on our dates like location, who the other person was. This was for safety and making our relationship a priority. This meant no canceling plans with each other for time with others. A lot of these boundaries went out the window on our first date. We had only been open 3 weeks. At this point, she went out and said she would be back by 11 p.m. She came home at 12:30 a.m. I was still up. I was pretty upset at the time. She had not so much as sent a text. She clearly had done something with this guy. She was trying to come on to me, but I was rejecting it. I was done at this point and told her that she was way later than she said. There was no communication at all, and I had no doubts she messed around with this guy. She didn't try to hide it, just kept giving me the excuse that things escalated and she got caught up in the moment she promised to do better next time, and that now that she knows she can get excited, she will have a plan for managing that. Then she tried to get me to reclaim her. I was not interested and told her. So that when she got pissed and told me she was getting in the shower, I slept on the couch that night. The next morning I had decided I was out. I went into our bedroom and was packing a bag. She woke up to this and asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm leaving. She seemed alarmed and asked, where are you going? What do you mean you're leaving? I told her I'm done. I'm going to my sister's. I'm not going to sit here around the house forever while you're out dating. You put me onto those subs to convince me. Well, I read a lot more than just what you wanted me to hear. That's the reality of most of those stories. And I'm sure this would be my reality as well. You'll sort through tons of matches and pick and choose who you want. I'll go months, maybe years without a match. Then eventually we will divorce once the resentment gets too high. I'm just cutting to the end now. She interjected, you had the one match. I angrily replied, we both know that was a bot. She jumped up then and put her hands on me. Okay, I'm sorry. You are right. We're going too fast. Please don't go. We can work this out. We can find a balance that works for both of us. You're upset right now. Let us calm down and really talk about this. I'm sorry. Nothing like last night will happen again. Trust me, we can work through this. I caved again at that point. I cave a lot. We talked later that day. It was finally the deep conversation we needed to have before we did anything. The conversation she was too distracted to have the first time. It's also the one that led to today going to dinner with Madison and another couple having a vibe check. Dinner was fine. Madison and Leland vibed for sure, which I found pretty annoying. I did my best to act normal. I think Kara was doing the same thing as the night went on, and it appeared like our significant others were way more infatuated with each other. Kara and I started talking a little bit about the elephant in the room while neither of us just came out and said it. I think the real vibe here is that neither of us necessarily wanted this, and now we're just along for the ride. At least that's how it seemed to me. Before we parted ways, we traded numbers. I think I'll try texting her tomorrow just to see how much of this is actually her idea. I only have another day. We're supposed to go over to Abigail's house Saturday night for a play party, which again makes me feel like we're rushing into this. We have never done this before, but apparently we're going to join 10 other couples at a swinger party. Madison keeps assuring me it's not what I'm thinking, and I don't have to do anything I don't want to, but we should go and see what it's like. She says we're just going to see if this is something we want, and if so, we can go ahead with Leland and Kara. I guess I'm going. I'm just stupid enough to keep this failed train rolling. I'm also thinking Kara is really hot, and if Madison keeps pissing me off and fucking around, I may just say fuck it and find out I Kara 21F. Still can't believe what happened last night, and despite becoming suddenly single and homeless, I feel amazing. I'm typing this out from a hotel room that I'm staying in with Seth, 27M, for a guy I just met on Thursday. I feel like we've been through a lot together. I'll go home to my parents' house tomorrow, but I'm not in the mood to explain this all to them tonight. A few weeks ago, I posted about my boyfriend Leland, 27M, asking me to consider swinging. He did manage to convince me to give it a try. I thought it might just be something he needed to get out of his system. Then he brought up Madison, 26F, again. Apparently her and her husband were wanting to add swinging to their open relationship, and Leland thought this would be perfect because then everyone is new to it. I was so pissed. I knew something was going on between them. I confronted him about that, and he totally gaslit me. I didn't realize it at the time. I actually just now am realizing how stupid our relationship is. I mean, it was stupid from the start. Why was a 24-year-old at a high school party anyway? I bought into his bullshit again and agreed to meet with Seth and Madison for dinner. Towards the end of dinner, Seth asked me for my phone number because he wanted to talk about this. Without Leland and Madison, we messaged back and forth a lot on Friday. See, Leland always told me that Seth and Madison were in this super happy relationship, and the open relationship had just brought them closer together. Seth told me the truth. Madison had given him an ultimatum to open their relationship, and he had almost left her after her first ever date. They weren't living some sort of open marriage fairy tale. We had both noticed at dinner how close Leland and Madison seemed to be. As we talked, we made a plan to look through their phones and see if they were actually cheating, and this whole swinging thing was just a ploy to get permission to keep cheating. Madison is smart, Seth told me. He found nothing on her phone, the only texts on her phone were totally work-related. Leland is not as smart. It looks like they may have used a messaging app, as he had a few on his phone. There weren't any messages, but that was a red flag for me. They did have a few texts that he forgot to erase. It wasn't like 100 obvious what they were talking about, though. The exchange read: Leland, what did he say? Madison, I told him we should just go and see what it's like. He agreed. Madison, delete this and switch over that S all that is there. I asked Seth if this was on Madison's phone, and he said no. At that point, I just called him. We talked and decided we needed to test these people out. We both agreed that these two just wanted permission to cheat together. The thing was, neither of us really wanted to lose the relationship. After talking it out, we decided we should give our relationships one more chance. We each asked them if we could wait. We didn't want to go to Abigail's party the next night. Each of them told us we didn't have to do anything, but we told her we were coming. They told us almost the same thing, exactly that. Abigail made it seem like it was a big deal to get invited, that we would each be the only new couples, that the other 10 had been doing house parties like this for a while. They told us that if we didn't at least go, we probably wouldn't be invited back. If we decided we did like this later on, we were going to go, hoping for them to pick us. I was so nervous all day Saturday. I thought I was going to throw up. I wasn't sure if I should eat before, if there would be food there, if I should not eat at all. I didn't really have a lot of direction on what to wear to something like this. Leland didn't even ask. I just went with a little black dress that was just a touch too short and showed a bit too much cleavage. Luckily, this turned out to be the correct call. I wanted coffee, but didn't have any because I was way too nervous. So I just started overhydrating, which made me have to pee every 10 minutes, especially when combined with the nerves. We met Madison and Seth outside of Abigail's house. The house was very nice. Seth and I looked at each other like, here we go. I had not met Abigail before, but she looked amazing. She has 36 and has had 2 kids, and you would never know it. When we arrived, we got greeted like it was a dinner party. There were the usual pleasantries and a quick tour. She showed us they had a pretty good spread of finger foods and lots to drink. I was actually kind of overwhelmed and trying to not stare at the other people. They weren't even doing anything other than having conversations. I don't know what I was expecting. We arrived right when it started. There were going to be a dozen couples here tonight, and I think we made it 5 at this point, which included the host. The women were all dressed kind of like I was. This made me feel better on the tour. Abigail went over some things, but at that time I was totally distracted. I remember her saying the rooms upstairs were set up for private play. There was something about changing the sheets. She introduced us to her husband Brad, then to her boyfriend Jacob. I wish I had paid more attention to the next part, or maybe it was a blessing that I didn't. I know what she said now, but at the time all I heard was thank God for those double doors. Everyone gave a little laugh, me too, even though I didn't know what we were talking about. She was talking about the party adjustment she had made to her first floor dining room. I got snapped back to reality very quickly. Another couple arrived that really didn't mean anything. It just drew my attention to Leland. Madison and him were talking. He looked at her and said, "Want to head upstairs?" She nodded, and the two of them just started making for the stairs. Seth and I were left standing there staring at them as they headed off together. Leland finally looked back at me and said, "Come on," but then he and Madison disappeared up the stairs without another look or word. I felt sad, then pissed. I looked at Seth and said, "I guess we got our answer. Well, we might as well make the most of it." I was angry and absolutely was not going to join them upstairs. Abigail said there were places to play down here too. I thought I'll find my own space far from those two. Seth was just following best he could as I marched out the other side of the room from the stairs. I didn't even know where I was going. I made a turn, maybe 2, and ended up in this huge room with 2 king-size mattresses pushed together. There was also a large L-shaped sectional in the near corner, a good-sized couch opposite it, and one of those cube shelves with the collapsible baskets along the wall. I didn't even hesitate when I walked in. I just dropped my clothes to the ground without looking back at Seth. The next moment, he was pulling his shirt off and gathering up my clothes. He put them all in one of the cubes and turned back to me while fumbling with his belt. I snapped, "OMG, just come here." He figured out how to get his pants off, but then just turned and ran back over to the cube shelf and put them in it. I said, "What are you doing?" He responded, "She said you were supposed to use the cubes for our clothes in here." I don't want to be rude. I kind of comedically stunned said, "Rude to who? We're the only people in here." He just said more might come in. I remember thinking, who the hell is going to come into this room where there are already 2 people messing around? It's not like we're being discreet. We left the 2 doors wide open. I am not normally this aggressive, but after what Leland pulled, I wasn't holding back. We were enjoying each other when I realized my faux pas in picking this room. A very fit 45-ish-year-old man lays down naked on his back not 5 feet from me. This is immediately followed by a very, very busty, similarly aged woman climbing on top of him. I totally freaked out for a moment, saying, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. Is this your room?" The guy just shook his head and got an amused smile on his face. "My dear, this is the group room, group room." I looked at Seth. "Did you know this was the group room?" He just nodded and said, "Yes, she said it on the tour." I had a momentary freak out, but quickly composed myself. After a second, and being mildly embarrassed, I realized I didn't really care as I was enjoying the moment with Seth. I kept making eye contact with this older guy, and I kind of liked it, when he looked at his wife, and they nodded at each other. The next thing he said, "Do you guys want to swap?" I immediately agreed. Seth didn't say a thing. The older guy reached into a small bag next to him and pulled out a condom. Seth noticed and said, "Oh shit, I left mine over in my pants." The old guy said, "Don't worry, I got plenty, just take this one," and handed him one from his pack. I began with this guy, and his wife began with Seth. It was the most insane experience. When I got here tonight, I had been with exactly 3 guys in my entire life, and now I've been with 2 more in the span of what was probably 15 or 20 minutes. Another couple joined on the bed and began to play together. I then took a look around only to find 2 more couples were in the room. It was a really intoxicating experience. Seth and I played with this couple for however long, but ultimately ended up finishing with each other. I couldn't believe what I just had done and was feeling kind of proud of myself when I looked up, and in the doorway were Leland and Madison just staring daggers at us. Things got ugly from there, especially once we got back in the car. There was a lot of screaming all the way home. He kept telling me I went too far and that he can't stand to look at me. I totally snapped and called him out on all of his bullshit. I told him I know that all of this was so Madison and he could have a free pass to cheat. He denied it, but I told him about the text and their shady behavior, the way they just went upstairs without a thought. He kept telling me we were supposed to follow them. They didn't check in with us. They didn't check if we were okay. They didn't take anything slow. When I asked if he and Madison had sex, even though we didn't follow them, he said yes. I screamed, "So you really didn't need me there?" He started going on about how it wasn't supposed to be like that, that we were all supposed to pay attention to each other, and that Seth and I should have been more attentive to them, because they were the ones who brought this up. I was so pissed off, it caused a moment of clarity. Why was I with this guy? He is nothing but red flags. I ended the conversation there and packed a bag. I didn't say another word to him and just left. As I walked out of the apartment, I checked my text. Seth had texted me to check, and it seemed he was having a similar experience with Madison. I let him know what happened with me. He told me he got himself a hotel room. I told him I was heading to my parents' house, even though I really didn't want to explain why he said I could come to his hotel room, and I happily accepted. I've been sitting here thinking about everything that has happened. I know Leland will not be part of my future, but otherwise I don't really know what I want to do now. Still, for some reason, I feel more sure of myself than I think I ever have before. My Seth 27M wife Madison 26F of 2 years pressured me into an open relationship that itself almost ended our marriage. Instead of doing damage control on our relationship, she tried to switch us to swinging so she could still sleep with her coworker Leland 27M. While we did that, and apparently myself and Leland's now ex-girlfriend Kara 21F didn't do it right. This caused a huge argument between Madison and I. I went into this argument determined to get the truth out of her one way or another, but that proved to be way easier than I thought it would. She was so pissed off that she just spouted off everything in her anger, like it was my fault. As I listened to Madison go on and on about what I should have done, I realized all of this was just about her living out whatever fantasy she had created in her head and her mind. I was also supposed to be focused on her while she was fucking Leland. I am still having a hard time wrapping my mind around how she really saw that going these 2 wanted to fuck each other and didn't want to risk their situations to do so. They didn't want Kara and I to take to each other. They thought that we wouldn't have it in us to just go with it all. I was a roadblock. She didn't want to give me up, but also wanted to fuck around. Essentially, what she really wanted was a one-sided open relationship. She just couldn't pull it off. And when I got my first taste, she also couldn't handle that. I knew as she ranted that this marriage was done. I never asked for all this yin stuff she did. Well, she got what she wished for. Hope it was worth it. I told her I was divorcing her, left that night, and got myself a hotel room for a few days. I also sent a text to Kara to check in on her. She was having a huge fight with Leland that ended with her breaking up with him and leaving their apartment. She is getting off a little bit easier than I am. She was not on that lease as she had moved in with him just months earlier. They weren't married. I talked to a divorce lawyer on Monday, just 2 days after the fallout. She told me she could have papers drawn and served this very week. I've got some savings and intend to break our lease and find my own place. Kara ended up staying with me for the 3 days I stayed in the hotel. I can't deny that I am really smitten with her. We spent those 3 days getting to know each other, and I swear I could have talked with her for another 3 days straight. The passion was there too. It wasn't just the overall mood from the party. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. After 3 days, I returned to my apartment just to get some stuff. I'll stay with my sister for now. I got a lead on an apartment of my own, but it won't be ready until next weekend. Madison wasn't there when I went to get my stuff and has not texted me. This is typical behavior, as the cold shoulder is her go-to. It used to drive me crazy, but now I'm thankful for it. It's Friday night. I got word that the divorce papers were served to her today. My lawyer told me. She didn't even react. I'm sure she wasn't surprised. It should be easy. We rented, each had our own bank accounts, no kids, and this is a no-fault state. I keep feeling like I should be sad or angry, but I just feel relieved. The last few months have been way too hard. I love her, but what she put me through wasn't fair, and I harbor resentment. I have been texting with Kara pretty much nonstop since she went to her parents' house on Wednesday. I asked her out on a real date for tonight, but she couldn't because of a family thing. We have one planned for tomorrow. I feel like a teenager. I'm so nervous, which makes no sense considering we've had sex several times already. It's just too much time to think. I'm obsessing about where I should take her, where should I get a haircut during the day tomorrow. It just feels different, even different than when Madison and I started dating. Anyway, that's the update. It's been a weird few months, and even weirder week. I think it's going my way, though. The pain of my marriage has been replaced by excitement for the new. It may just be NRE talking, but at this point I don't think I have anything to lose by letting it ride.